Hello, everybody, and welcome into Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Now, before we get started, before you settle in and settle down, can you please hit that like button? Please hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the content, so thank you for that very much. Go over to the Texas channel and do the same thing. We are trying to grow that brand, grow that channel, and I'm going to be here every Tuesday usually. This is Texas Tuesdays, but it's going to be on Wednesday today. Busy with some other stuff yesterday, so today it will be on a Wednesday, but from going forward here on out, it will be on a Tuesday. So please subscribe. Please go over to the text channel, do the same thing, hit the like button. Really helps out, guys. It really does. It's very close. Football starts this Saturday. Now, for us Longhorns fans, we have to wait a little bit longer. We have, 10 days till Texas plays football, so that's going to be fun for us, but we do have to wait. So we will be here next Tuesday breaking down the Rice game a little bit, not too much. I'm going to give you my final predictions for the Big 12 as a whole, Texas as a whole, what I believe the college football top 6 will be, the Big 12 player of the year, the Big 12 defensive player of the year and offense, newcomer of the year, and Heisman Trophy winner. Those are the ones that I'll give you next week. Those will be put into stone going into the season. Today, we will be ranking the secondary position and the linebacker position in the Big 12 as a whole. And remember, guys, I'm going to rank each one individually. I'm going to add it up. We're going to go lowest score wins the conference, highest score is the worst team. And then I'm also going to give, like I said, my predictions of what I believe will happen. We'll see how close these predictions come to each other, but I think they'll be somewhat similar. I have a feeling Cincinnati's going to be the 14th or 13th worst team, like I've been saying the whole time, and I think that will be consistent with both rankings. And then Iowa State now, too, will probably be either the 13th or 12th, maybe worst team in this conference. But it's going to be interesting here at the bottom. Going through, honestly, Texas on the offensive side of the ball there's a big gap there. On defense, it's not as big of a gap. I still think there's a gap, but there isn't a Grand Canyon-sized gap here on the defensive side of the ball like there's on the offense, in my opinion. And we're going to jump into these rankings actually right now, guys. We're going to talk about secondary. So that would include the secondary rankings will include cornerbacks and safeties. That's it. Obviously, there's some guys like a star position, which is a hybrid linebacker safety. I use that mostly for linebacker. If I thought a guy was more of a safety, I put him there. It all kind of evens out because, like I said, we're doing linebackers separate and secondary. So they'll help either one or hurt either one if they're not a very good player. And, guys, we're not going to have Texas number 1 tonight. We're going to have Kansas State number 1. Kansas State has their best players is Kobe Savage. He is on the Big 12 defensive team, first defensive team preseason rankings. He had 58 tackles last year and 3 interceptions. You have Jacob Parrish at cornerback. Didn't play very much, guys. He only had 14 tackles, 3 passes defended. And then Jordan Wright, new guy, hasn't played very much, if at all, and he's coming in. And then VJ Payne, again, didn't play very much at the other safety position. 27 tackles total and 1 sack. Then you bring in another free safety, guys, that's going to play a lot, and Marcus Sigel. North Dakota State transfer. He was the newcomer of the year last year for North Dakota State in that conference in the FCS. So I really believe he's going to play a big impact here for Chris Klieman. Obviously, Chris Klieman used to coach North Dakota State. Now he goes and takes one of their players. Now we do get to Texas here, guys, and number 2. I do believe if Texas plays to their talent, they will be number 1 at the end of the year. But again, guys, you got to put a lot into this. You got to put talent, production, scheme, all of that stuff comes into play here. So that's why I have Texas too. Jaron Thompson back, or Bug Thompson, nickname as we like to call him here, out at the 40 acres. 83 tackles, 7 passes defended, so pretty good in coverage. Then you bring in Jalen Catalon from Arkansas. The guy is a stud. The problem is he cannot stay healthy. The only year he stayed relatively healthy was his freshman year, and he was fantastic with about 100 tackles. He had a couple forced fumbles, a couple interceptions. He's a great player. He just needs to stay healthy. And honestly, that's the difference for me. If Catalon stays healthy, they are clearly the best secondary in the Big 12. If he doesn't, they're probably going to be around the 4 or 5 mark. I put him at number 2 just to be safe. Terrence Brooks, I believe this guy's a star. I think if this guy grows to his potential, just like his father, will be an NFL player and possibly a 1st or 2nd round pick. That's how good I think this guy can be. He played in 9 games last year, 3 passes defended. Honestly, I think he was our most consistent cornerback overall. You also bring back Ryan Watts, and I believe his future in the NFL is going to be safety, but he's going to play cornerback for Texas. 51 total tackles, 1 interception. And then our best player on defense this year, in my opinion, other than Jalen Ford at linebacker, is Jahdae Barron. plays at the nickel position, 78 tackles, 3 passes defended, 2 interceptions, one taken for a touchdown, the one at TCU. This guy's a stud. This guy will play in the NFL on Sundays, on Thursdays, on Mondays. Whenever the NFL decides to play, he will be there. He's a very good player, guys. He honestly is our second best player on defense this year. I'm excited to watch him play. It's a shame, in my opinion, that he wasn't on any of the Big 12 teams list, or at least the first team list. That's insane to me, but it is what it is. Next up, we talked about this team because I think they're going to be pretty bad this year, but Iowa State actually returns a decent amount, and I think they're going to be pretty good in the back end. The problem is, when we get to linebackers, they're not great there. They're okay. And then the front end, we're going to dive deep into that next week, along with the rankings overall. So we'll get to that when we get to that. But Malik Verdon at safety, he was a backup last year. He didn't play very much, so he's going to be stepping into a bigger role this year. We'll see how he does. Free safety Bo Frailer is back. He was second on the team in tackles with 1 pass defended, so that's good for him. And then the number 1 guy on their defense, TJ Tampa at cornerback, 40 tackles, 9 passes defended. It's like I believe he was third or fourth in the Big 12 in pass defended, and I think he's either first and second in returning pass defended. So this guy's a stud. He was on the number 1 team for the Big 12 this year on defense, and he's going to help Iowa State a lot. And then the star position, I did put Jeremiah Cooper there. He was more of safety in my position, in my opinion. 32 tackles, 1 pass defended. Good job for him overall. And then Miles Purchase, 41 tackles and 3 passes defended for him. At the cornerback position as well. So they bring all these guys back. All these guys played there last year. I think they're going to be pretty good on the back end. Up front, we will have to see, though. Next up, at number 4, guys, we have TCU. Surprisingly, they leave, Travius Hodges-Tomlinson. Guess what? They will miss him, but they have a lot of guys returning. Strong safety, Mark Perry, 84 tackles, 6.5 for loss. Bud Clark, 45 tackles, 5 interceptions, which led the team last year, and he'll be back. Avery Helm is new. He comes from Colorado. Not much experience there, if any. I don't think he played very much, if at all, at Colorado. Josh Newton, 35 tackles, 12 passes defended. This is the leading guy in the Big 12 coming back in that category, so good job for him. And then nickelback, Nook Bradford, or Milliard Bradford is his real name, 58 tackles, 8 passes defended. This TCU defense is going to be pretty good, guys. I thought they were going to have a fall off. Even when we get to the linebackers, they're going to have returning production there as well. So the defensive side of the ball, in my opinion, which is kind of weird because Sonny Dykes is an offensive coach, but if they're going to win this year, it's going to be with that side of the ball. I fully believe that. If they want to win 9-10 games, they have to be coached up well on that side of the ball because they have the talent. It is there. The problem is, will they play that well on defense? We will have to see. I know it's going to be interesting because the offense lost a lot, but honestly, looking at it, the defense didn't lose as much as I thought they did. Next up, we got number 5, Kansas. Kansas returns a lot as well. You have Kenny Logan Jr. at strong safety, one of the best safeties, if not the best safety in the Big 12. He was also on the preseason Big 12 list, 106 total tackles, 5 passes defended, a couple forced fumbles, and a couple interceptions for him as well. At free safety, we have O.J. Burrows, 49 tackles, 3 passes defended. And then their best cornerback, Kobe Bryant, is also back. 9 passes defended, 3 interceptions. The other cornerback, Mello Dotson, 6 passes defended, 2 interceptions. I like this Kansas group in the back end. If they can stay healthy, the issue with Kansas on both sides of the ball is health. If they're healthy, they have the upper echelon talent to be the second or third best team in this conference. The problem is if they get injuries, they don't have the depth like some of the other teams. That is the issue. Honestly, guys, I know some of you have played video games. You know you can turn injuries off. If you could turn off injuries for all of the Big 12, I think I would predict Kansas to come in second or third place in this conference. I can confidently say that. The issue is depth. So if they get a little lucky, some breaks go their way, they may be playing in the Big 12 championship game. We'll see what I predict going into next week. But that's my early thoughts, or maybe even later thoughts on Kansas. It depends on what you think about where we're at. We're very close to the season. It's going to be late thoughts on Kansas, but I think my thoughts on them obviously will be finalized next week. Next up, we have Oklahoma at number 6. Honestly, I thought that I'd have them a little bit lower on this list, but they do have some players there, guys. Reggie Pearson at strong safety, 174 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss, and 3 interceptions. He transfers over from Wisconsin. That's over 3 years, not in 1 year. Let me get that out of the way because those would be insane stats for a 1-year guy. But 3 years there at Wisconsin, but that's a decent amount of production over 3 years still. safety coming over. Billy Bowman, a guy that has not lived up to the talent. I believe he was a 5-star recruit. I know Texas recruited him to play on the offensive side of the ball. He wanted to play defense. I think he also went to Oklahoma because he wanted to follow his girlfriend there. No issue with that. But he has 60 tackles last year, 3 interceptions, 5 passes defended. There's more there. There really is. He should be better than that. Next up, we have Gentry Williams, who honestly didn't play much. He's going to be neither of the cornerbacks, or 2 out of 3 cornerbacks that I'm going to mention here, played very little. The other one is Josiah Wagner. He's a freshman 4-star. So Gentry Williams, Josiah Wagner, you're breaking in 2 out of the 3 from your cornerback and nickel position. The only guy that has a lot of experience here, and honestly not great experience, is Woody Washington with 60 tackles and 6 passes defended. One of these guys is going to have to step up in Gentry Williams and nickelback Josiah Wagner. Otherwise, they will have issues on the back end again for Oklahoma, but I do have him here at number 6 on the list. Number 7, Oklahoma State. And Kendall Daniels is the guy to look out for here, guys. He was also on the Big 12 preseason team for defense. 71 total tackles, 3 interceptions, 5 pass defended. Overall solid player. He will also play in the NFL on Sundays. And then you get very little returning production with the other 2 safeties that are going to see the field with 24 tackles, Lyric Rawls, and 2 passes defended. And then Trey Rucker, little to no playing time. So they're a little soft there. And then cornerbacks, Corey Black, 25 tackles, 4 passes defended, and Cam Smith, 22 tackles, and he had that in 3 starts there. He got hurt, so I think he'll have a bigger year this year. You could honestly put this next team ahead of him. I really only have them above this next team because of Kendall Daniels, and that is number 8, West Virginia. West Virginia, surprising to me, is up at number 8, and that's because they bring back Maurice Ford at safety, 64 tackles, 4 passes defended. Aubrey Burks also comes back at safety, free safety, 66 tackles, 2 passes defended. And then cornerbacks, they bring back 2 decent cornerbacks in Andrew Wilson and Malachi Ruffin that combined for about 40 tackles and 7 passes defended. So a decent group there. And then, again, you could argue this next team, number 9, BYU, could be ahead of either of West Virginia or Oklahoma State. It's hard to rank them, but BYU, Micah Harper, 67 tackles, 3 passes defended at safety. The other strong or free safety position is Malik Moore. He led the team in interceptions 2 years ago, but was hurt, and it was an ACL injury. So that's why I have them honestly at number 9. If he was fully healthy last year, you could argue them number 6, as high as that. Cornerbacks, Jacob Robinson, he had 51 tackles and 5 passes defended. And then another reason here, you do get a transfer, but it's from a very low level of football, guys, in Weber State. This is not the same thing as a North Dakota State transfer like Kansas State has. This is Weber State. Now, he played there for 5 years, and he had 30 passes defended, so he's a good player. But can he transition to a Big 12 football? That's the question here, guys. Can he transition to Big 12 football? Next up, we have Texas Tech. And they have a couple guys that us Texas fans have heard of. One in particular, Tyler Owens, transferred from Texas, stud, huge athlete, 6'3", ran track. I think he was like number 1, one of the fastest guys in Texas high school for track when he was there. He is a senior now, which is insane to say, but he had 19 tackles last year. He will be the primary strong safety this year for Texas Tech. Free safety, Dadrian Demerson Taylor is back. He had 74 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 5 passes defended. They bring back Rashad Williams, 37 tackles, 7 passes defended. And they bring back another good cornerback who was tied for Josh Newton with passes defended with 12, Malik Dunlap. He also had 33 tackles. Star CJ Bakersville transferred from San Diego State. Over 2 years, he had 75 tackles and 2.5 tackles for loss. So again, I have questions with him, and I have questions with Tyler Owens. The other 3 guys I think are good players, and I think they'll play well. So we'll have to see that for Texas Tech. Honestly, guys, 6 through 10 here to me is interchangeable. This is where you get a drop off. Baylor, number 11, and this is why they're number 11, guys. I tried to put them on. I really did. I originally had them ranked. I had to turn back here, number 4, but they just don't bring back much, guys. They have 15 transfers coming in. A lot of them are on defense, and then the guys that are starting aren't guys that played very much. Devin Bobby at a strong safety, 13 tackles. 13 tackles last year. He didn't play very much. Devin Lemire is the one guy on this that I'm going to read off to you that played a lot. 56 tackles, 4 passes defended, 2 interceptions. He's a good player, free safety. They bring in a Miami cornerback transfer, Isaiah Dunson, with 6 tackles. I can't do anything with that. I don't know how good he's going to be. Tevin Williams III, 9 solo tackles. Didn't play very much last year, guys. The star position, which I said is a hybrid between linebacker and corner. Bryson Jackson, 12 solo tackles. Again, what am I supposed to do that? Where am I supposed to rank that? That's why Baylor is number 11. Number 12 is Houston, guys. Number 12 is Houston. Houston, again, not much here, guys. Antonio Brooks, only 7 games played last year. Not very good stats to go with it. Adari Huckley, 86 tackles. Free safety, he's the one really good player they have. Cornerback Alex Hogan is third team All Big 12, so I think he's a pretty good player. And then Isaiah Hamilton played at Texas Southern. He's a transfer. He's going to be the other cornerback position. And then the nickel is Latrell McCutcheon. Us Texas fans remember him because we picked on him a lot at Oklahoma. He's not very good, guys. I think he was a high 4-star recruit, but the problem is he hasn't lived up to that. Now, if someone can change him and make him live up to those standards, Houston can jump up this list because I believe in one guy. If you get me to believe in 2, that right there makes them better than Texas Tech, in my opinion. They would probably jumped up to number 10. But unfortunately, they're at number 12. And then I'm not going to break down these 2 teams because let's be honest here, a lot of transfers. They're not very good on defense. Cincinnati is 13 for me, guys, on defense. And number 14 is UCF. And I'm going to give you a sneak peek. They're going to be interchangeable. The next one we do, which is linebacker rankings, which we're going to hit on in probably about 5 minutes, UCF is going to be 13. Cincinnati is going to be 14. These teams are going to be bad on defense, guys. They're going to be very bad. And this is ruining my prediction. I think I talked to Mark, a week ago now? And I had UCF in my top 7, or in my top 7 teams, and I said basically 2 through 7 could possibly play in the Big 12 championship game. This is totally discounted UCF from that conversation, in my opinion. There's no chance UCF plays at the Big 12 championship game, not with this defense. Your defense has to be at least average. This defense is below average in the American Athletic, and they're going to the Big 12 now. They are not going to cut it. So cut them from the list. I'm down to now 6 teams that could possibly make the Big 12 championship game, with BYU kind of teetering, honestly. And I still believe that. I'm the only person that even has BYU in that conversation. I don't know why. So far, I've gone through the list. They haven't been terrible anywhere. They've been average everywhere and above average in most other places. So I don't know why people are so low on them. OU Gentry Williams is very talented. National, his high school football group. He is. I don't know what I'm going to get from him. LFG, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. It takes me a long time, not going to lie. For today, because I didn't have time yesterday, the cornerbacks and linebackers and safeties, it took me about 3 hours. So it's fun. I love doing it. It's just a lot of work. But it's also, I like doing it because now when I watch these teams and I have a feeling how they're going to do, this is going to back it up. I'm doing all this research so I can give you predictions that I believe will happen. And today, I canceled UCF out of the Big 12 picture. I don't believe UCF can win the Big 12 championship anymore because of the research I've done. I don't think you can compete in this conference by playing shit show or being a shit show defensively, and that's exactly what they are. I mean, honestly, if you're going to be that bad on the back end and that bad in the middle with linebackers, unless they're top 3, which I almost going to guarantee they're not going to be in the they're not going to be in the Big 12 championship game. Man, what are you drinking? 7-5 Kansas State is number 1. 0-12 Iowa State number 3. Remember, this is position groups. I'm not saying what the record's going to be. By the way, Kansas State will be better than 75. I think they're an 8-4, 9-3 team. But Paxton, blood pressure through the roof, man. I'm getting hate from Texas people. I had them ranked 2. And by the way, I know depth-wise, we should be number 1 because of Malik Muhammad, Gavin Holmes, guys like that. But the problem is I haven't seen them play for Texas. I don't know how they're going to do. And I don't know. I just don't. I feel like Kansas State is the safest bet for my number 1. That Texas being number 2 is not a slight. They could easily be number 1 here. I think it's honestly between them and Kansas State for the number 1 spot. And honestly, if Texas plays to their talent, they'll be the number 1 secondary in the Big 12. The issue is, honestly, Ryan Watts scares me. If he plays the whole year, I think Texas is going to struggle. I think Malik Muhammad is going to have to play. I've heard all the reports out of practice how he's getting beat deep. We can't allow that stuff to happen. If he's a weak point, people are going to attack that. We need someone that's able to keep up with fast wide receivers that can stretch the field. And honestly, NFL scouts see it. This guy should be a safety, and we should have converted him to safety because if you had a safety group of Jaron Thompson, Jalen Catalon, and Ryan Watts, and then you had a weak point Malik Muhammad early in the season who could get better, I think this team has a higher upside on defense if you did that. Paxton, no, I just meant about the upcoming season. Okay. I appreciate that. I really appreciate this, though, LFG. It takes a lot, but I enjoy doing it. Yes, Weber State football, college football is legit. Those dudes can play, and quality of Utah. 100% Utah's gotten better high school wise, and also Weber State's not bad, but they're not North Dakota State. That was my whole point, and it's a big jump. Weber State to what did I have them at? Let me see. Go back in here. BYU is a big jump, guys. That's a big jump to me, and we'll have to see. He could make it, but it's going to be hard. West Virginia D2 underrated. Positivity. I love the show's handle name, Genius, because it makes it easy to remember when the show airs. For that reason alone, keep your time slot. I will. Yeah, it was my bad. Obviously, a Texas Tuesday on a Wednesday, but it won't have it. I can't promise it won't happen again, but if it's under my control, it won't happen again. Yeah, it's maybe West Virginia is going into this, guys. I've said this before. West Virginia. I was low on them. I'm a little bit higher on them. I'm lower on Oklahoma State in this research. I think UCF now is basically they're right where I thought they'd be. I think they're going to go 7-5, 6-6, probably 7-5. BYU, I'm higher on with the research. I think BYU, especially with the left tackle they have in Kingsley, I believe if they can control the line of scrimmage with Keen Slovis, I think they could possibly sneak up on some teams. And like I said, possibly get in the Big 12 championship. Do I think they will? Probably not. But they're in my discussion and conversation for right now. Again, next Tuesday, I'm going to set that in stone. It's Texas versus who? I'm going to have Texas in there because Texas is the most talented team. I've gone through this list. That's decided. Texas Tech, Kansas State, Kansas, Oklahoma, and then probably BYU. I don't think Oklahoma State can make it. I don't think Baylor can make it. I don't think TCU maybe is jumping up for me. They're a lot better on defense than I thought. But again, you don't have a defensive-minded coach. If they had a defensive-minded coach, I might put them in the Big 12 championship game because they have talent on that side of the ball. The issue is your coach is an offensive guy, and I don't think your offense is going to be very good. I don't trust Chandler Morris. How are you going to replace Quentin Johnson in a place like TCU? And then your running games, you lose Amari DiMarcado and Kendre Miller. Those are two very good running backs, guys. How do they replace them? Again, at a place like TCU, if this is in Alabama, they just crank those guys out. TCU does not do that, and that's why I'm iffy on them. On top of, they won all these close games last year, but their defense is good. I thought about changing my pick because I had last week I had Texas losing to TCU. I'm probably not going to change that now. On the road versus that defense, I could definitely see that. That makes me more confident in that pick. Today, we will also be breaking down Texas Tech, so I still have to go over linebacker rankings and then Texas Tech, and then we'll obviously jump in and out of the comments throughout the show, and then be done with the show. But you guys have been awesome per usual so far, so I really appreciate you guys. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Go over to the Texas channel. Do the same thing. I love talking with you guys. I want more people in here. I know week 2 we will probably be multicasting since it's Alabama, and I'll be on the Texas channel and the main channel, and I'll be able to have a bunch of you guys in there, especially after the game versus Alabama, especially if we win. I'm going to go crazy. Hopefully we get a lot of people in here. I'll stay on forever, honestly. I'll stay on all night if we beat Alabama. So I really appreciate you guys. Ooh, what's your game day playlist? I need something smooth, Paxton, because if I do something upbeat, I'd have a heart attack. I don't joke around when I watch Texas football, so I'm up and down, yelling, screaming, cussing the refs out a lot of the time. So I don't really pump myself up. I honestly don't listen to anything because I'm already like pumping up myself in my own head. If anything, I would probably listen to something slow to calm myself down. Okay, yeah, we need to talk about this, Paxton. Your thoughts on Mark's comments? Unprofessional. I like this guy as a commissioner, but you can't come out and say you're basically rooting for a team when Texas Tech comes to Austin for the last game of the season. That's a joke to me. Like people have been saying, if you're saying this out loud, what are you saying behind closed doors? And I just have a gigantic issue with it. You can say you hate us. I have no issue with that, but you can't be saying you're rooting for another team. You cannot be saying that. And that's very unprofessional. Someone said the SEC should make a comment. I don't even know how to compare what I would compare that to in real life, where it'd be like you're dating someone but then the next person you're dating is commenting on the relationship you're still in, I guess. I don't even know how to compare it. It's weird, guys. It's wrong for Brett Yomark to make these comments, but I don't know what you say. Honestly, I think it helps us. I think it's bulletin board material. I think Sark can go on there and say, look, it's literally us versus the world. There's no one rooting for us. Nobody. Zero. The only people rooting for us is Texas fans. No fans in the Big 12 are going to be rooting for us. No fans in the SEC are going to be rooting for us. The refs aren't going to be on our side. The athletic departments aren't on our side. The president of the freaking Big 12 isn't on our side. Nobody. We need to go out there and take it. And we're talented enough. It won't matter because we should be better by 2 touchdowns than everybody else. That's what Stark should be saying to this team, and I hope he does. We owe BYU a few losses. Yes, we do. We owe Taysom Hill University a ass whooping out in the parking lot. Unfortunately, we don't get to play them. So that sucks. That would have been no, we do play them. Sorry. We play man, do we play them? I don't think we do. We play Houston. We don't play UCF. We don't play Cincinnati. Do we play BYU? I should know that. That's my bad on that. I don't think we do. In my opinion, BYU is a fringe dark horse 23 team in college football in terms of being competitive. I 100% agree with that. From what I've seen, from the talent they have, honestly, Paxton says, yes, we do play BYU. Okay, that's what I thought we did. I don't know why I blanked out on that. But, yeah, I agree. It's honestly down to, can the defense be an average Big 12 defense, and can Keaton Slovis get back to USC productivity? If they can answer both those 2 questions, they're going to be a top 4 to 5 team in the Big 12, guaranteed. If Keaton Slovis plays like he did at USC, he's either the second or third best quarterback in this conference. Because talent-wise, he's probably number 3, and if he plays to that talent, he will be number 3. And then the defense, I like the defense. Defense isn't great. It's not terrible. It's going to be interesting how it's coached up. I think their offensive line's pretty good, but it's going to be very interesting. They play in Austin. Yeah, Shadowbeard, I knew that because Texas doesn't have any. Other than Alabama, we don't leave the state of Texas, which is insane. That's insane. I don't think that's happened in a long time, if ever. I hate them as well, but I agree. Like, if we're leading teams by a lot, on the road especially, you got to do it. I don't think we should do it at home, honestly. Just get a Texas chant going, but on the road, I think we should do it. I think it'd be very, very funny. Texas, UT, like USC West, is hated nationally. I lived in Texas for 22 years, 100%. I think, honestly, the most hated teams in college football are Texas, USC, Ohio State, and Notre Dame. I think those are the 4 most hated teams in football. People say Alabama. Alabama's only hated because they're winning. Alabama wasn't thought of until Saban got there. They were totally a relic of the past. Texas, even when they're bad, hasn't been that. So, yeah, 100%. I think those are the 4 most hated teams in college football. Maybe Michigan at 5. Alabama's in the top 10, but they're not as high as people think just because Saban's there. Once Saban's retired and they aren't winning as much, they won't be hated. Texas literally goes 5-7, 7-5, 8-4, all these mediocre records, and we're still hated. Okay, guys, I think we're going to jump into these linebacker rankings just real quick. Okay, so at linebacker, number 1, people are probably gonna get some Texas hate from this. Baylor, number 1. They they have 3 guys that I think are good players. They don't return them because 2 of them are transfers, but they're very good players. We'll know this first guy, Byron Vaughns. Don't know how we let him go. He played great at Utah State. 99 tackles in 2 years, 19 tackles for loss and 6 sacks. We really could have used him. He's been a very good player for Utah State. I think he's going to explode with Dave Aranda in that defense. Matt Jones returns for them, 65 tackles, 2.5 for loss. And then a guy I talked about in the Baylor preview. I like this guy a lot. He was a newcomer at Liberty and was very good, and he transferred right away after his first year. Mike Smith Jr., 85 tackles, 3 forced fumbles, 1 interception, 10 tackles for loss. That's a very good 3 for your linebackers for Baylor. God, I can't believe I'm about to do this. But number 2, Oklahoma. I know Texas fans are going to hate me. Danny Stutzman returning. 125 total tackles. 125 total tackles. And this is where you differentiate. Differentiate between Oklahoma and Texas. Deshaun McCullough. Deshaun McCullough comes in from Indiana, 48 tackles, 3 passes defended, 4 sacks. As a freshman, this guy's going to be a stud if he learns this brand minimal defense. I think he'll be possibly the best. Maybe he'll be the second best linebacker possibly in the Big 12, maybe best if he has an absolute breakout season. I think the best resides with our team with Jalen Ford. And then Jared Knack, 24 tackles, so honestly not much there. But the only reason I have Oklahoma ranked above Texas is Deshaun McCullough, because after Jalen Ford, we'll get there. Number 3, Texas. After Jalen Ford, 119 tackles. I think him and Danny Stutzman, I think Jalen Ford's a better player, but they're right around there production-wise, obviously. And then you get David Gabenda, who's just on that Jared Knack type of thing. He only had 12 total tackles last year. And then I broke it down here. Anthony Hill, 5-star recruit, could have a great season. We don't know. We'll have to see. Mo Blackwell, transitioning from the safety position. He's been there a couple years. We'll see what happens. He only had 11 total tackles last year, and that's where I see. I think Deshaun McCullough is just more – I just trust him more than those two right now. I could be completely wrong, because if Anthony Hill plays to that 5-star recruiting level right away, we're number 1. Because if you have 2 Jalen Fords, which is basically what you're saying, if Anthony Hill plays that 5-star level, you're the best linebacker core in the country, or linebacker core in the Big 12. But I can't bank on that, guys. I can't. That's why I have Texas 3. Could they be number 2? Yes. Could they be number 1? Yes. But I have them there at number 3 for right now. Next up, again, the team we've been talking about as a dark horse, BYU. They return 2 guys, bring in another guy that we're going to talk about. Very good player. Max Dooley, 57 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Ben Bywater, who I like a lot, 98 tackles, 4 tackles for loss. I think you'll see him on the Big 12, one of the Big 12 teams at the end of the year. And then this name that's very hard to pronounce, AJ Fung Pachana, 101 total tackles, 10 tackles for loss. I could have completely butchered that. He is a transfer from Utah State. I like him a lot as well. So does the NFL. He's on a lot of big boards for next year's NFL draft, and I have BYU at 4. And this is why BYU, in my opinion, is going to be in the thick of it, because they have a good enough defense. And if Keaton Slovis can just be not even as good as USC, if he can be just good, I think BYU will be there to the end. If he's as good as USC, I think they're in a top 4 team in the Big 12. Next up, we have TCU. Again, I thought they lost a lot, and they did, but they have a lot of guys that played on defense and a lot of guys that are still there that played a lot on defense. Johnny Hodges, 87 total tackles, back. Jamoy Hodge, 82 tackles, back. Nnamdi Obizor, 49 total tackles. That's the weak spot on the defense, but good players overall here for TCU. And again, here it is, Kansas. I can't put them higher because of the depth, but I like their starting players. Tawan Berryhill, 46 tackles, 6 tackles for loss. Rich Miller, 94 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss. Craig Young, who I like a lot. 60 tackles, 4.5 sacks last year. Kansas does not have the depth they need, and I think if Lance Leipold can stack on a couple top 25 classes in a row, he can take them to an 8 to 9 win average per year. I really believe that. The issue is depth there. Next up, guys, we will talk about Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State bring in Justin Wright. He had 101 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss. The only issue is came from Tulsa. So we'll see how he transitions over. Will it be hard for him? We'll have to see. Colin Olivers, 28 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss. That's a high tackle loss rate with only 28 tackles. And then Xavier Benson, 76 tackles and 5 sacks. So a lot of sacks there for a guy with a lot of sacks there for a guy with 76 tackles. You wouldn't expect a linebacker to have 5 sacks if they have 76 tackles, honestly. Next up, Kansas State. Kansas State brings back Desmond Purnell, who didn't play much, but he had 21 tackles. Daniel Green, again, didn't play much, 58 tackles. They do bring back their leading tackler and middle linebacker, Austin Moore, with 87 total tackles. So that is why I have them ranked that high. Next up, we got Iowa State, guys. Iowa State. Jerry Vaughn comes back, leading tackler, 71 tackles. Will McLaughlin, he was a backup last year. He only had 12 tackles. And then Zach Lovett, Missouri transfer, high 3-star recruit, but didn't play at all there other than special teams. So that's why I have them ranked 10. They could be, or 9. They could be ranked a little bit higher if they had someone as close as they did with Jerry Vaughn tackle-wise. Houston, number 10, guys. Number 10, Houston. Malik Robinson missed most of last season, but he's ranked as a top 10 linebacker in the country in the Big 12 on most people that go and rank these position groups and rank the players. So, I mean, if he comes back from his injury and plays well, you have him. And then Tremarius Cheeks, no stats on him. He's coming in. He didn't play at all, if any, so we'll have to see. They're at number 10. And this is what I'm talking about. The linebacker group gets kind of weak here, guys, once going through – after you get past Iowa State, honestly. Even Iowa State's kind of weak. Texas Tech, Josiah Pierre, 40 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks. And then Jacob Rodriguez, 29 tackles. It gets very weak after Kansas State, guys, at number 8. You could honestly put these in any order. West Virginia, guys. West Virginia. Sorry, I went all over the place with this list. West Virginia, Jairo Favris, 1 tackle. 1 tackle. That's right. 1 tackle. Lee Kogba, 92 tackles, 5.5 tackles for loss. Again, you could put them higher just because of him. But then the next guy, Lance Dixon, he kept switching from safety to linebacker. He is officially a linebacker this year. We'll see how he does. He had 22 tackles in 7 games. So honestly, not much to write home about there. And then that's number 12. And then again, not much to talk about here. UCF, 13. And Cincinnati at 14. These are going to be the 2 worst defenses in the Big 12. These are going to be – Cincinnati's going to be the worst team in my opinion. I think Iowa State's probably going to be 13th. UCF has scared the hell out of me now with how bad their defense is going to be from what I've seen. So that's going to be interesting. I think their offense is going to be great. Honestly, you're probably looking at like a Texas Tech type team of like 5 or 6 years ago. You're going to score 40, maybe 45 points, but you're going to lose 52-45. So – they'll probably go 6-6, 7-5. It really sucks because I think their offense is very good. If they had an average defense, I think they could be playing for the Big 12 championship game. I don't think they're going to have anything close to an average defense, especially switching from the American Athletic Conference to the Big 12. So we'll have to see there, guys. But that's my opinion on them. Anthony Hill. Yes, Anthony Hill. Hopefully no Jet Bush. Yeah, sadly, Paxton, I don't think it's going to happen. What I've heard out of practice is he's been playing better than they thought. So, of course, he is, and he's going to get playing time because of that. The guys that I've heard, Paxton, especially from last scrimmage, I know you've probably heard it because I've seen you in the other chats. Malik Muhammad, very good. I think he'll get a lot of playing time. Anthony Hill, obviously, I think he's going to start. I think he's going to get a lot of playing time. I think he's going to get a lot of pass rushing opportunities. Jelani McDonald, I think, is going to get some playing time. I think Derek Williams at safety will get some playing time. I don't think he'll get a lot unless someone gets hurt. So those are 4 guys to look out for. And then on offense, obviously, Jonte Cook and Cedric Baxter, freshman-wise, will get a lot of playing time. Oh, and then, yes, Liana LeFou has played well as well. I totally forgot that name. Recently, he has played well. You're right, Paxton. LFG, I don't care for Slovis, but he will probably be decent for BYU. I 100% agree because the last couple of quarterbacks, I mean, look at Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson will end up being a career backup in the NFL. Played great at BYU for his last season. Jaron Hall, I don't even think is in the NFL, and he was great last year. I think 31 touchdowns, 5 or 6 interceptions. So I expect Keaton Slovis to be pretty good, especially with the offensive line they have. Paxton, I do the same thing. So you saw a Fanatic perspective on Bleacher Report. That is big for the Texas brand and for him as well. Let's go Mountaineers, Silas. Hey, I think you guys are going to be a little bit better than most people expected. I do, guys, honestly, going in before I'm breaking down all these rankings, I thought West Virginia was probably going to go 3-9, be the worst team in the Big 12. They're not going to be the worst team in the Big 12. Honestly, guys, if I had to rank teams right now, and again, this is not put in stone. That's next week. I think West Virginia is probably the 9th best team in the Big 12. I think Houston's worse. I think Cincinnati's worse. I think Iowa State's worse. Now, Iowa State and Cincinnati will be my bottom 2 teams. That I do know. Like I said, the ones I'm willing to set in stone right now, Texas at 1, Iowa State at 13, Cincinnati at 14, maybe switch those. But I think West Virginia right now, I'll probably have 9th. Again, I'm going to look in the schedule, see what happens, when they play, where they play. That all matters. But it's going to be interesting. Paxton, my only concern is at safety. I don't think it's going to happen because it never has for Jalen Catalon. But if he's fully healthy the whole year, let's say we play 12 games, he plays 11. That I would consider fully healthy for a guy like that. Obviously, fully healthy should mean 12 games, but he's just a guy that's going to miss 1 game minimum every year. I feel like even when he was his freshman year, he missed 1 or 2 games. So if he gets 11 out of 12 games started, I think we're fine at safety. The problem is I don't think we're going to get that. And we could run into some issues. That's another reason why I think we should have transitioned Ryan Watts to safety because you have way more cornerback depth than you do safety depth. So it's going to be interesting. Michael Taff, or Taffy, whatever you want to call him. I think it's Taff. I've heard some people call him Taffy. I think it's Michael Taff. The walk-on, I believe did finally get a scholarship. I think he could play pretty well for Texas this year. Played pretty well last year, honestly. So we'll have to see. But Guys like that scare me, honestly, because you heard the same thing about Jet Bush, and he's come in and been nothing but a disaster. Have to start Hill, 100%. You do have to start Hill. He's going to start, in my opinion. I think you would probably see Hill, Gabenda, and Ford get the most playing time, and then fill it in with a Blackwell, a Bush, a LeFou. So we'll have to see. It's going to be interesting. Honestly, get your best. I know this is going to bring back some PTSD. Try to get your best 11 guys on the field defense. I think you have enough talent there. You didn't under Tom Herman. Or if you get your best 11 guys, there's a lot of big guys with a lot of speed on this team that you could put your best 11 out there and still get production-wise. Where I think Tom Herman went wrong on that is you didn't have the depth that this team has, nor did you have the top-end talent that this team has. So it's going to be interesting. LFG. I would be shocked if Iowa State wasn't. That would be the biggest indictment on Neil Brown. If Iowa State finishes better than you, that just proves it right there that you're not a good coach. Because talent-wise, you have more talent now than Iowa State. If you said if Hunter Dekkers and Jarrell Brock, their starting running back, were there, I think it'd be about even. But it's not close now. It's not close. Iowa State has far less talent than you. You have a way better offensive line. I had you ranked as the third best offensive line in the Big 12. You could debate all the way up to number 2 or number 1 on that. Honestly, you have 5 really good players up there. So you have good enough line play. You have a good enough running back room, especially with CJ Donaldson. Your defense, I've ranked basically between the secondary and linebacker, probably averages around the 7th or 8th. So you're basically going to be average on defense. You should win 5 to 6 games, in my opinion. You should. No, really, who Kansas State? I'm confused by that comment, Dion Pryor. Yeah, Keaton Crawford as well, Paxton. Are you good with extra returning punts? Am I good with it? No, I'm not good with it because I'm scared he could get hurt. But do I think it gives us a way more boom or bust potential back there and also takes off stress off Keelan Robinson when having to do both? By the way, the best gunner in the country should not be back there because he can block any punt at any time. So that's why I wouldn't want him returning punts. So if I'm going to have someone return punts, I would either have Xavier Worthy or honestly, guys, I would like to see Jordan Whittington do it just because I think he can safely catch the punts. Number 1 is getting the punt, not muffing it. And I have a feeling Xavier Worthy is going to be a big boom or bust guy. And I don't want that as your return guy. I would rather have, if you need that, like you're down by 7, 2 minutes left, I have no issue with that. If you want to throw him back there. But I do have an issue with someone like that being consistently put back there because I think you're going to have a lot of turnovers. And it wouldn't shock me. He's had an issue catching the ball. I know he had a broken hand last year, but he had an issue catching the ball a little bit in his freshman season. So imagine he muffs 2 to 3 punts in a year. I don't like that. I think he'd possibly get hurt as well. So I just don't love it, honestly. I think there's multiple other guys I would choose. I think you leave Keelan Robinson in to block punts and you don't let him do that return. But Jordan Whittington, I wouldn't hate back there. I think he's got very good hands. A.D. Mitchell, I wouldn't hate, but it'd be like a lesser version of Xavier Worthy, in my opinion, because I don't want him to get hurt as well. Savion Red is the guy, honestly, I would like to see return the most punts. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll have to see. Dion Pryor, I would agree with that in the past. The last 2 years under Sark, we've done much better at that, Dion. All right, bye, Dion. Feel bad for Iowa State. They lost key players to gambling suspensions. Yeah, 100%. I don't even know. Honestly, are they suspended or kicked off the team? Because Hunter Dekkers reportedly was dismissed from fall camp. That sounds more like you're kicked off the team. He broke a law. I think he broke a law. I don't think he was 21 and he was doing it. I know the Iowa kicker wasn't 21. That's illegal. That's something that it's not even up to the school. That's more of a state police type problem, maybe even federal problem, honestly. So that will be interesting to see. I don't know if Hunter Dekkers was actually suspended for the whole year or kicked off the team. That's going to be very interesting. Same with Jarrell Brock. I mean, that's funny because when I was breaking down Iowa State before this happened, those were their two of their 3 best players on offense, and they're both gone. I mean, Iowa State, Mark and I, again, we're talking about this. Northern Iowa is plus 24 versus Iowa State. And he was like, how is Iowa State even going to score 24 points? And I agree. I don't think Iowa State's scoring 24 points in that game. I think Northern Iowa could beat them, and I think it's going to be like a 24-20 game or something like that. It couldn't be less. It could be 17-13. I would not hate this as well. It'd give them good experience. Jonte Cook. I just don't think you can afford to get one of your best wide receivers or best players on the team hurt. I don't want him put in those unnecessary positions unless, again, you're down by 7, 2 minutes left, throw him back there because he's definitely one of the most explosive guys. After 2022, Kansas State lost their top 4 or top 5 players. Kleinman is badass, but it's tough to replace him. It is, but his system allows where it's more of a team thing and not more of a player thing. I do think it's really hard for me to see them get back to the Big 12 championship game, especially winning it. Honestly, if I'm a Texas fan, I'd love to see them get there because they don't beat us, honestly, and he hasn't beaten us yet, even when we were bad. So it'd be nice to see them because I think we would beat them, but I don't know if they're going to get there, guys. I just don't know. They're in that discussion for me, but I don't know. Dion, who does they have Texas. Most people have Texas winning the Big 12, and a lot of them have us making the college football playoff. I don't really love that hype, but I do believe we should win the Big 12. We should at least get to the Big 12 championship game. I think every Texas fan in here watching, which is cool because I believe most of you guys in here tonight are Texas fans, believe 10-2 is the most realistic record and one we should accomplish. Honestly, if we hadn't been snake bit and just looking at the roster, this team should go 11-1. But we're going to throw in a loss in there because it's Texas, honestly, and what has happened in the past. But I believe it is. I believe 10-2 is possible, and I think it will happen at minimum. And I think we'll be in the Big 12 championship game. We should be 11-1, though, honestly. And I think we can beat Alabama. If you line up the rosters, we're just as talented as they are, and we have a known commodity at quarterback. They do not. But they do have a known coach on the sideline, and we honestly don't know right now with Sark. I think he's in limbo. I think this year tells us everything we need to know about him. Guys, I'm going to break down this Texas Tech game real quick, and then we will get right back into your comments and questions. So, Texas Tech, guys, we play them last week of the season. We heard Brett Yomark say, "Oh, I'll be there. Hopefully, you beat him to Joey McGuire." So let's break this down. Texas Tech, guys, last season under Joey McGuire, 8-5, 5-4 overall in the conference. They averaged 34.2 points per game, 27th overall out of 131 teams, 29.2 points per game allowed, which is 93rd in the country. Some of their key losses: Tyree Wilson, a defensive end, obviously a once-in-a-generation player for Texas Tech. He was a top 20 NFL draft pick, a first-round NFL draft pick. Not many of those guys come out for Texas Tech, especially on the defensive side of the ball. The last one was Jordan Brooks, who went at the Seahawks. 7.5 sacks for him, 14 tackles for loss. And they also lost leading tackler at safety, Krishawn Merriweather. Big hitter. I remember him a bunch. He is gone now. Now, they do keep Tyler Shaw, who is 8-0 in games he started and completed. He is 8-1 in games he started. The only loss coming to Texas, 70-35 2 years ago. They do play Oregon in the second week. That's going to be very interesting because that's where he came from, and that's where some of the 8-0 stats are from as well. 8 of their 9 leading receivers return, including wide receiver Jaron Bradley, who is their leading wide receiver. Their leading rusher, Taj Brooks, also comes back. And they also add Rusty Stotts at center and C.J. Bakersfield, which we talked about at the star position from San Diego State. Overall, I like this team, guys. I like them a lot. It's hard for me to say Texas Tech's going to finish second because I haven't seen it done in a long time. Heck, I have never seen it done. I've seen them finish in the top 3 the year where they beat us and then lost to Oklahoma, and then we got screwed out of a BCS national championship game versus Florida. But I haven't seen him be that good in a long time, and I haven't seen Texas be this good in a long time. So who am I to say maybe Texas Tech can do it? I do believe we win this game since it is at home, especially with the comments coming out with Brett Yomark now. I definitely think we win this game. I think we win this game 34-24. I think it's a good game, but I think we end up beating Texas Tech here, and we finish the season 10-2. Again, this is not set in stone. I will have my predictions for Texas and the rest of the Big 12 next week, next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So be subscribed and hit that like button so you stay in the loop. And I think it's going to be a good game, but I think we do end up beating Texas Tech, and they're just hard for me to predict. The rest of the Big 12 is very hard for me to predict, guys. It really is. I think Texas is in the Big 12 championship game, but I think there's a lot of movement in the middle. I think the bottom 2 or 3 teams are set in stone for me, but the second team is definitely not. It's a very fluid situation. It's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very fun. I think the Pac-12 is going to be fun this year. I think the Big 12 is going to be – I think every conference is honestly wide open. You have the Big 10 with 3 teams that can win the conference. The SEC with 3 or 4 teams that can win the conference. The Pac-12 with 3 or 4 teams. Actually 5 teams that can win the conference, in my opinion. The Big 12, I think Texas wins the conference, but I think the second best team is literally a fight between about 7 or 8 teams. So it's going to be very, very interesting, guys. The ACC, honestly, is probably the least exciting conference. I think it's going to be Florida State or Clemson. I'm leaning more Clemson now because I think people are overrating Florida State, especially once you dig into the schedule. I overrated them even just a couple weeks ago because I think I had them in the college football playoff early on. I'm no longer going to have them. I'm going to let you know that now. Clemson, I will say that's going to be the one team I'll let you have a sneak peek of for my college football playoff. I think Clemson's going to the college football playoff. I think it's a big bounce back year for Dabo, and I think they're going to be very good. Over under 2 pick sixes against Rice. I would go under. I don't think we have 2 pick sixes. I think we have 2 picks. I think we have probably 3 turnovers, 5 sacks. I think we allow max 14 points. That's my opinion on that. What's going on at Oklahoma State this year, or on Oklahoma this year? Oh, man, I don't know. I don't know if their defense, I think, is going to be better than last year. I don't think it's going to be very hard to be better because they were god-awful last year. Offense, that's honestly the question to me. People are saying the defense with the amount of transfers they got and Brent Venables there will be better. I think they'll be a top – they were in the 90s last year. They'll be even hundreds, I think, when I was breaking them down. They might have been in the hundreds. I think they'll probably be in the top 60 defensively, 65 defensively. Offensively, I don't know. I don't really like Jeff Lebby. I never really liked the hire. I think Dylan Gabriel's okay. He's just not a national championship type quarterback. I don't even think he's a Big 12 championship type quarterback. I think he's a good, solid player, good, solid quarterback, but I don't think you can win the Big 12 championship or the college football playoff with him. So I think Oklahoma's probably, honestly, with their schedule, is probably a 9-3 team. But if they had the schedule that we had, they'd be 7-5, in my opinion. LFG, some national media pick Texas, but minority factions are hyping Kansas, Kansas State, and Texas Tech. I understand Kansas and Texas Tech being hyped up. I don't really understand Kansas State. Like I said, if you could guarantee me health, I would probably have them as the second or third best team in this conference. The issue is health with them. They have the top-end talent, but they don't have the depth. And I will say the rules will help them this year, guys, because remember, the clock doesn't stop in the certain situations like last year, and it will run. So each team's probably going to run 12 to 15 less plays a game, and that will help Kansas out. Who does Oklahoma even have at wide receiver? Andrew Anthony from Oklahoma is the guy I would look at. Jarrell Farouk is okay. Drake Stoops is okay. What they have is they have 3 to 4 guys that are possession guys. So to me, they're not going to be explosive offensively, but they're going to be able to move the ball. And that's where you need to stop them. To me, the key for Oklahoma offensively this year, and it is for a lot of teams, but third downs. They have to be highly successful in converting third downs with the type of offense they run because they don't have explosive players on offense. They don't. So if Dylan Gabriel can be very accurate and just nickel and dime you down the field, they could be pretty good. And that will also help the defense on top of that. And I'm wondering if that's going to be the plan this year because they have no guys that can take the top off. They really don't. Drake Stoops does not scare you over the top. Andrew Anthony, if healthy, maybe is the only guy, but he doesn't really scare me. And then Jarrell Farouk, maybe a little bit as well. But those are all, to me, possession receivers. They don't have an Xavier Worthy. They don't have an A.D. Mitchell. They don't have a Marquise Brown like they used to have. They don't have a C.D. Lamb like they used to have. So it's going to be a lot of nickel and diming down the field. Dion, OU has awesome outs to their 23 team via the portal or ads, but a veteran buddy of mine is an OU homer, and he says their bad secondary equals 2 or 3 losses. OU is stacked, though, talent-wise. I agree. Secondary is definitely a weak point. I like their linebackers. Like I said, I've had them second on the list of linebackers. I like the running back room a decent amount. I think Dylan Gabriel's capable, and he's a pretty good quarterback. I think I had him ranked as the 3rd or 4th best quarterback in the Big 12, and it is a downer for quarterbacks in the Big 12. Wide receiver, they are weak at. They're an average wide receiver group in the Big 12. Secondary, it's not good. It's going to be very interesting. I think, honestly, like I said, because of the schedule, they're 9-3. I think if they played our schedule, they're 7-5. LFG, Laughing Miles, Texas, ready to dominate nation. About to find out how cold Texas wide receiver Nair is. I am excited to watch him. He's probably the guy I'm most excited to watch on offense. On defense, it's Anthony Hill. I'm very excited to watch him play. I also want to watch Terrence Brooks play more because he was very good when he came in last year. A Big 12 coach said this is the worst OU team he has seen size-wise and everything. I would agree with that. Their defensive line, I haven't gotten there. We'll get there next. But their offensive line is nowhere near up to par what it is. I think Bill Beanbo, by the end of the season, will have them up to that, or at least closer to that than they were last year. But it's nowhere near where it was in the heydays where they were getting 4 to 5 offensive linemen drafted basically every year when they came out. And their defensive line, when we get into it, we'll have to see. But I have a feeling it's not going to be very good. I follow out West College football. New Nair was great up at Wyoming. He is great. He's a very good deep ball threat. I'm really hoping that ACL injury didn't hamper him with his deep ball and his jumping skills, because we're going to need that. Yeah, we play Georgia. They play Alabama. So that's pretty even. But we go to Michigan. I don't know the out-of-conference game for Oklahoma. I think they might play UCLA. I'm not 100% sure. Honestly, going into next year, that might be a pretty even game if they're both on the road. I know we go to Michigan on the road, and Michigan's going to be losing a lot, especially if J.J. McCarthy goes pro. Then I definitely think then it's going to be an even game because they have Dante Moore at quarterback, and I think he's good. So it really comes down to where those games will play. I know we go to Ann Arbor. If they go to L.A., then I think those games are basically even. If J.J. McCarthy stays, we have a harder game in my opinion, but I don't think he'll stay. I think he's going pro after this year, because I think he'll have a decent year and probably end up as a second or third round pick, because he's a great athlete. He's a really good athlete. It just comes down to accuracy wise, honestly, with him. He was very consistent last year with his accuracy, especially the deep ball. That was a good question. I don't really know the schedules very well for next year. I just know the 2 big games for each. Yes, could be even at Michigan. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If Michigan loses all the guys I think they're going to lose, and then UCLA is pretty young, honestly, then those games will be about even if Oklahoma has to go to UCLA. If they even have to play if they even play UCLA, that is. I think they do, but I'm not 100% sure. They're out of conference next year. I'm not very well versed on, honestly. I know they're out of conference this year's terrible because they got lucky and they're joining the SEC, so they don't have to play Georgia this year. And honestly, guys, I think the SEC schedule is very favorable for Texas next year. We have Georgia at home, but then our road games are like Vanderbilt, and then I forget the other really easy one, but there's another really easy one in there as well. I think it might be Mississippi State, or maybe they play at home. I'm not sure. Our SEC schedule next year isn't very hard, honestly. It's easier than Oklahoma's if we're just going SEC. If we're going schedule by schedule, it's probably about even, because, again, I don't know who they play out of conference. But, guys, it's been awesome chatting with you. Can you please hit that like button? Please subscribe down below. It really helps out this channel a lot. Again, Texas Tuesdays live. Again, this is Wednesday, but we will be here next Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. To see that, please subscribe as you see scrolling down below. Hit that like button. Go over to the Texas channel. Do the same thing. Big 12 final predictions. Texas final predictions. Big 12 or Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Heisman, and my top 6 for the college football playoff will all be here 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll probably go for about an hour 15, maybe even an hour and a half next week, especially if you guys come in. Get more people in here, guys. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Go over to the Texas channel. Do the same thing. 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Mark it down in your calendars. Be here. Be ready to settle in and settle down for another episode. So I really appreciate it, guys. You guys have been awesome. Hook 'em, and I will see you guys next week.